Last season saw Newcastle finish 13th in the Premier League, and going into that season there was a lot of negativity surrounding the team after the departure of Rafa Benitez. The appointment of Steve Bruce was questionable to many football fans, however he has had the backing from the owner and he's been able to change the look of the squad. So how good can the squad be, and what can we expect to see this season from Newcastle United? Under the management of Rafa Benitez, Newcastle were purely looking for Ayoze Perez and Salomon Rondon to score the goals for the team. Matt Ritchie being the top assister in the 18-19 season with 8 and Rondon second with 7. A squad that really consisted of mainly fringe players and never really seemed like they were going to have a successful career at the club. Yosselu, Atsu, Kennedy, Muto, who was signed in 2018 and has only scored 1 goal in his Newcastle career. Players that never looked like playing a solid part in the Newcastle team. For whatever reason, Benitez wasn't backed by the owner and never got a proper chance at buying multiple players. The one thing that is needed for a rebuild, which Newcastle were crying out for. Since his departure, there has been a change in the way the club has operated in the transfer market. Last summer saw them spend 60 million in one window, more than Benitez was ever able to spend. And this money was spread on 3 players. Saint-Maximin for £16 million, Emil Krath for £5 million, and then the other £40 million signing from Hoffenheim, Joel Linton. As well as Willems on loan and Andy Carroll on a free transfer. And well, no surprise, this is what progresses the team. New players that bring something new to the team. Some signings are a risk and may not work out, but that's just how some go. And proves even further that signings have to be made because some will work, some won't. The more chances you take, then you start getting rewarded with good performances. The star signing from these though has been Alan Saint-Maximin. Even before he played a game for Newcastle, you could tell this was a great bit of business. £16 million for a young player that had been showing top potential in the French league was seen as a big change for Newcastle. With some players you can already tell they're going to work in a team before they play. When the numbers they're producing are a cut above the rest, it's a great sign. And this is exactly what he had when playing for Nice. 143 successful dribbles in the 18-19 season was the most in the French league. 27 more than the player in second who was former Newcastle player Ben Arfa. You don't accidentally get these numbers, it's because you're very good at doing that particular thing. That is the player's trait. And that is why they did translate into the Premier League. He had 121 successful dribbles, which ranked 3rd in the league behind Traore and Zaha. Plus overall he's a player that excites fans because of his quick feet and flair, taking on the opposition. It's what you want to see when you're attending or watching matches. He finished the season with 3 goals and 4 assists, which isn't fantastic, but you could maybe say he did as you'd expect with the players he had around him. Now this summer they've added even more quality, not spending as much money so far, but some good additions to improve the first team. For £20 million they were able to sign striker Callum Wilson, and for £15 million in comes left back Jamal Lewis. Wilson is a big signing for them as he's a proven goal scorer in the Premier League. It's not a striker that has potential, and instead somebody that will go straight into the first team and improve it. He's a different style to Joel Linton, which will be something we'll discuss later, but that's exactly why it makes it a good signing. Jamal Lewis improves the situation at left back. Over the course of last season, it saw Steve Bruce play Jetro Willems, who was on loan and was performing brilliantly. That was up until his unfortunate injury where Danny Rose joined in January. Lewis is somebody that impressed in his time at Norwich, especially in the season when Norwich got promoted into the Premier League. Last season he wasn't anything too special, but from his first performance in a Newcastle shirt it definitely shows some promise. And that opening game at West Ham where they were able to win 2-0 is something I want to expand on a little more. In particular on the left side of the pitch where Jamal Lewis and Alan Saint-Maximin were able to link up very well. From these 2 summer windows they've been able to change the left side of the team with a tricky winger and a pacey fullback. The West Ham game showed fans what they can expect throughout the rest of the season, with chance creation coming from where these players are linking up. The first highlight saw Saint-Maximin have the ball on the left outside the box, and in classic style he looked to take on the opposition and move towards the box. As he drifted inside, the West Ham right back followed him, and this meant there was free space on the left now. Jamal Lewis spots this and moves into the space. So when Saint-Maximin turned around, he's got a free pass to make. And now Lewis has time on the ball, time to think about exactly where he wants to put the ball, and he does this brilliantly. A cross straight into the box for Callum Wilson, who couldn't quite find the target and headed wide off the left post. This highlight shows how well Jamal Lewis reacts to Saint-Maximin dribbling inside towards the box. He gets into the space created by the winger, making himself a passing option. It means that even if Saint-Maximin can't find a shot on goal or can't find the striker in the box, he can always rely on Jamal Lewis getting into the space where he has loads of time to direct his cross towards the striker. The second highlight shows another example of how the 2 players link up well and use the pace they have to cause problems. Saint-Maximin is given the ball from Shelvey in a deeper position, but even still, he decides to make the diagonal run towards the box box moving away from the left flank. This means that 3 West Ham players on Saint-Maximin are being pushed back and, more importantly, moving inside into a more narrow position. As he continues his run, Jamal Lewis darts forward on the very left on the overlapping run, and Saint-Maximin lays the ball off for him to cross. As the West Ham defenders have been dragged inside by Saint-Maximin, Lewis once again has time and space to cross. He hits it first time with a low cross into the box and is Callum Wilson again on the end of it, but his shot goes wide of the near post. So another example of the 2 players linking up but in a different way, running straight at the opposition with speed, making an overlapping run and creating chances for the strikers. Throughout the game you saw Jamal Lewis continue to make overlapping and underlapping runs while Saint-Maximin had the ball, and I'm sure this is where some goals will be created for the team in upcoming games. Jamal Lewis has slotted into the team very quickly and looked comfortable at left back, being an attacking threat and being another player who can provide service into the box, adding back qualities that Willems had, a player that Newcastle fans loved while on loan. And what's even better for these creators is that in the box is players that can score goals and give defenders a hard time. It's no coincidence that Callum Wilson was on the end of both of these crosses from Jamal Lewis, finding the space in the box and knowing where to go to have the best chance of scoring. Even though he didn't find the back of the net with these crosses, he did later in the game, but he got in front of the defender both times to have a shot on goal. His best season in the Premier League so far came in the 18-19 season. He was able to score 14 goals and assist 10 times for Bournemouth. This was massively helped by Ryan Fraser, who got 14 assists that season, and well, would you believe it, that's also who Newcastle have signed. We'll get onto him a little later. But staying on the topic of Callum Wilson, let's expand on why he looks to be a good purchase for Steve Bruce's side. As I briefly mentioned earlier, he's a different style to Joel Linton, who was in the team last year and maybe suits what they're trying to do better. What you get with Wilson is a mobile striker. With pace and moving all the time, he'll fight to be the first onto a loose ball. With long balls up the field from the centre-backs or midfielders playing deeper, Wilson is a good person to aim for, not exactly because of his height and heading the ball, but putting the ball into space where he can run onto it. He's quick off the mark and Newcastle can utilise this by putting the ball into space where he can look to collect it and run towards goal, with the eye to get a shot on goal or passing to another player. Alongside Callum Wilson in the West Ham game was Andy Carroll, and he was able to earn his place in the team for the opening game through impressive pre-season performances. Now, as we know with Carroll, he offers something completely different to what you get with Wilson, and he proved that he can be a very useful player for them this season. Aerially, he is dominant, and last season he showed this. He was first in the Premier League for aerial duels won per 90 with 12.8, above Benteke on 10.2 and Hilaire with 8.7. And the way this becomes useful for Newcastle isn't just for the obvious crosses into the box and heading towards goal, but instead flicking on the ball to other players. We saw this from Carroll in the opening game. He won 12 aerial duels, which was the second most from anybody in the first game week, only second to McBurney. Carroll won a flick on for the first goal as the deflected cross came in from the right. Carroll was on the end of it to flick it towards goal where it found Wilson at the near post to tap it in. As well as this, he won a header which went down for Saint-Maximin, and he had a shot from outside the box, but this went wide of the post. And it goes without saying that this is great when defending from set pieces. He won 2 headers in his own box, clearing the danger and helping keep the clean sheet. He showed his qualities in this game, but whether Steve Bruce sees him as one of the first names on the team sheet remains to be seen. This summer for Newcastle has seen them bring in players that know the Premier League, with Hendrick and Fraser coming in alongside Wilson and Lewis. Just like Wilson, Hendrick was able to score on his debut. I wouldn't expect him to be scoring too many though, but it's always great for new players to start well with a goal. So Ryan Fraser, a signing we didn't see play in the opening game, but I'm sure he will play a big part in the team throughout the season. Last season at Bournemouth, he found himself struggling. Whether this was because of the contract ending or being unhappy because he didn't get a move, we're not sure. But when he's at his best, with a clear mind, we know the qualities he can bring to a team, and he can be a dangerous player scoring and assisting. The 2018-19 season saw him score 7 and assist 14. The best assist to goal link up that season was Fraser to Wilson, with 7 goals being scored that way. Fraser played the majority of that season on the left wing. Obviously that is Saint-Maximin's position, but both can play on either flank. In the upcoming Premier League games, we'll see whether him and Wilson can bring that chemistry they had over into Newcastle for the 20-21 season. As well as these players, Almiron has looked better in the team recently. He started the season well with 2 assists, one in the Premier League and the other in the EFL Cup, and that already matches what he got in all competitions last season. A great start for him, so let's see if he can keep it up. John Joe Shelvey in the midfield is good at supplying the long balls from the middle of the pitch. He made 143 last season, which was the 5th most by midfielders in the league. They have some solid centre-backs at their disposal with captain Lascelles, Shaw and Fernandez. Players that are great in the air, provide a threat on set pieces, and are good strong players to have at the back, adding defensive stability. Just by doing some transfer business, times at Newcastle are looking better, on the pitch at least. The new signings are fitting in well, and where previously Newcastle looked to be struggling scoring goals, the new attacking line looks more than capable of scoring plenty this season. Comment below or in my my Discord server how well will Newcastle do this season and how many will Callum Wilson score. I recommend that you don't miss out on future videos. Subscribe to Route 1 and like the video if you did enjoy.